Hello, my name is John Pierce. I'm the principal with Single Track Analytics, and I'm going to spend the next few minutes going through how analytics can support care management techniques for bundled payment. This shows why analytics people need to be involved in any type of bundled payment venture. In a lot of cases, clinicians are aware of anecdotal information about what happens to patients during episodes, but they don't have any roadmaps. They don't have any detailed information. They need someone to map out the episodes, to show them where the opportunities are, to basically draw them a map of how to create care management opportunities throughout the episodes. Under fee-for-service payment, this is the picture of what clinicians and basically anyone involved in the hospital knew about what happened to patients after they were discharged. It was a black box. There was no consistent information available to be able to look at a patient and find out what path they took after they left the hospital. And this is the information that we have available now with the data that we get in bundled payments from Medicare program. We can tell which patients went to individual skilled nursing facilities. We can tell which ones went to individual home health agencies. We can see which SNFs had higher readmission rates. We can follow the flow of a patient all the way through their post-discharge period. We have much more information about the entire care process than we ever had before. So that's an example of the type of information that we have. Let's take a look at the type of costs that we didn't have before. This graph shows the major clinical episodes that are bundled under the Medicare Bundled Payment Program. The blue part of the graph shows the portion of cost that was provided in an inpatient setting, the type of cost that we knew about. And the orange part shows that's provided during the post-acute setting. So we can see, for example, in spinal fusion, we knew about 60 to 70% of that cost. But in pneumonia and respiratory infections, we only knew about 35% of that cost. Most of that cost was happening in the period, in the post-discharge period of the episode. And we really didn't have any way of knowing that. The same with major chronic diseases such as congestive heart failure and sepsis. The surgical procedures like cardiac valve, like spinal fusions, like PCIs, we knew more of that cost when we had fee-for-service data. Here's another example of what an episode looks like. This is an individual episode family for major joint replacement, DRGs 469 and 470. And each of the vertical bars is an individual episode, an individual patient. And what you'll see down here, for example, in the dark blue, is that this is the index admission. This is the hospital admission. All of the bars, almost all of the bars, are the same height because they're all paid on a DRG basis. We have occasional instances where we may have an outlier payment, but by and large, they're all the same. We can also see that most patients appear to go to home health agency because of all the yellow bars. Most of what we see here is green. So the way that we approach these episodes is, what do you see and what can you do about it? And in this case, most of the bars are green. Most of the cost in major joint procedures is in skilled nursing facilities. There's not very much red here. It's all mostly green. Even the high cost cases are driven by green bars. So the primary opportunity in these types of episodes is SNF cost in this particular facility. Here's the same graph for congestive heart failure patients. There are fewer patients, as you can see. You can see the hospital cost varies up and down a bit because we have multiple DRGs in here. That's not an indication of outlier payments. That's an indication of the fact that we have multiple DRGs in here. We don't see very much green. We see a lot of blue, but what we really see a lot of is red. So this shows that in these types of DRGs, the major cost driver is going to be readmissions, and therefore your major strategy has to be designed around readmission management. And for those types of DRGs, there's another consideration, and that is when during the episode is this cost occurring? These bars, each of these bars is for a 30-day period during the episode. This is the first 30 days. This is the second 30 days. This is the last 30 days. And the point of this is to show that there's a significant amount of cost in the second and third month of an episode. And this draws you to the decision that you need to make, which is, can I do anything about these readmissions that are happening 60 days out, these 30 days out? Can I do anything about them? Or are they just going to be random costs if I participate in an episode that's that long? So this is an important consideration in concerning episode length for these types of episodes. In some cases, the episode cost in the out periods is quite low. You're not assuming any additional risk, and you can take the longer episode and take the 2% discount. In these cases, it's up to the clinical teams, up to the cardiologists in this case, to say, yes, we can deal with these out period readmissions. Those are an opportunity. They're not risk, and we should participate in a longer episode. But if the cardiologists are saying, no, we don't have contact with those patients, we can't do anything about those readmissions, they're just risk, then you might think of cutting off your episode right at 30 days and not participating in the out periods here. Another interesting factor to consider when looking at readmissions is what episode families are those readmissions occurring in. So each of these groups of bars is for a specific index admission. This is all index admissions to COPD, all initial admissions, index admissions of CHF, major joint pneumonia, and stroke. And what we see they have a lot of in common is they have a lot of septicemia readmissions. All of these blue bars are septicemia readmissions. It may make sense to address initiative towards all DRGs for septicemia rather than having a different strategy for each of the index episodes where you're all ending up looking at the same type of readmission. One important factor that just needs to be conveyed to everyone that's involved in these bundle payment initiatives is the amount of variation that can happen, even on a quarter-to-quarter basis. This is important to create the right expectations, particularly for the finance people. You can't look at an individual quarter and see whether you've made or lost money. You can look at and see if you've made or lost money, but you can't tell whether you've had a trend or not. So in this case, this is the average episode cost in one of the DRG families over 5 quarters that are displayed here. And what you'll see is there's a line showing the actual trend here. You can see that we have a slight upward trend because of the equation for the line. But the things that we wanted to point out here are, look at the difference in between this period and this period. The average episode cost here is $9,000 more than the episode cost in this period. So if you were to look at just this quarter alone, you'd think you were doing terribly. You're losing this much money over the average. This is not a good DRG to participate in. And if you just looked at this quarter, you'd think you were doing wonderfully. What's important is not to look at these quarters. What happened here is you got unlucky. What happened here is you got lucky. What you want to look at is this line here. You need to look at that line, see which direction it's going, and that's where you should focus your attention. The final point that I want to make in this session is to talk about what we call the reality and the game in bundled payment. And this is true in any type of payment-related initiative. There's always the reality on one side. This is where the physicians and the care managers live. And this is dealing with true patient care, care improvement, cost reduction, care improvement, readmissions, post-acute management, things that clinicians do. That's one side of the balance. The other side of the balance is where the MBAs live, people like myself. And this is dealing with the rules, the reconciliations, outlier limits, target payments, all of the numbers that go into figuring out whether you're really going to make and lose money under the rules of the game. And sometimes this balance goes down on this side. One could argue that the realities of the reality won in the ACE demonstration, the acute care episodes demonstration, which seemed to demonstrate significant value. Most of the participants were pleased with it. Nobody evaluated it as being a bad situation. On the other hand, one could argue that the Pioneer ACO program, the rules are overcoming the reality. with the number of participants who are dropping out because they don't think that they can win in that game. And in bundled payments, for a long time we thought that the game was going to win, but Medicare changed some of the rules significantly. The rule that limits overall losses for participants in 2014, and now it's looking like hopefully we have a more level playing field going forward.